So I have a friend and a colleague in the speaking business. Her name is Janet. And Janet is a very successful business owner. And she was building a new arm of her business in another part of the world. And she didn't really know exactly how to get that started. And she wasn't really certain that that's what she wanted to do. But she had an opportunity to do a keynote address there, to get into an event and speak. So I worked with her and developed her signature talk using all the same concepts that are in the 2-day signature talk intensive. So she went and she did that presentation. And then she contacted me afterwards and she said she got 3 very viable corporate leads from that one signature talk. And she said, there's just no way to tell how much more business is going to come from that signature talk. That was a couple of years ago. She has now built her entire new arm of her business. Actually, she came out of retirement to run that business, to build it big enough that she could then re-retire. And she said all of that happened to a significant degree because of the leads that she generated from that signature talk. And there's just no way to know if those leads would have come forth without that signature talk, but she felt very confident that those leads were a big part of what happened because of that signature talk. And so I like that example because it's not your typical example for me where a speaker comes and says, I'm not selling my coaching programs, and then they sell their coaching programs. That happens all the time. I mean, that's like a regular outcome, but this one with Janet was different because it started an entirely new arm of her business. So that's a profound story for me. I have a friend in New Zealand. Her name is Sally. Sally was one of my first big clients in terms of outcome. Met Sally at an event in Las Vegas. I was in the audience and happened to be sitting beside Sally, and she is from New Zealand and she's a speaker in New Zealand. And we were talking about how she was struggling to get speaking gigs in North America. And I said, well, why are you having trouble getting speaking gigs in North America? And she said something about, I have this, apparently I have a reputation for being unsafe. And I don't even know what that means. And I said, well, I mean, are you throwing lawn darts at the audience? I mean, what are you doing to the audience? So I was doing a public speaking course that week in Las Vegas, and I invited her to come. And the short version of the story is this. The reason why Sally was having trouble getting speaking engagements in North America is because she has a big, big story. And I won't go into the story here, but it is a big story, and it's an awful story, and it's a story that people have difficulty listening to. So we worked with Sally over a period of months, and we taught her how to frame the story, how to position the audience to receive the story, how to deliver it in a way that was non-threatening but valuable for the audience. And we did that for quite some time. And then Sally contacted me and she said, I got a gig in LA. I finally got a speaking gig in LA. So I was so excited. I flew to LA just to see her speak at this engagement. And I had my phone, at that time it was a BlackBerry, had my phone in my hand because I was videotaping because I wanted to see what was going to happen. And you can see my hands are shaking. I'm so nervous for Sally because she's coming up to the end of her keynote and I'm watching this. And then she finishes the keynote and she gets a screaming standing ovation. So I pan the room with my camera and I get the screaming standing ovation. And then the next day they invited her to come back and do to share her expertise with other people. So they did that whole thing and they videoed that whole thing. And that launched a whole new sequence of events for Sally. And so, I'm very proud of Sally for going through all of that work in order to tell her story in a way that helps people. And Sally she's become a very dear friend of Jayne and I. We visited her and her sadly late husband in New Zealand a few years ago, and we stay in touch all the time. But she's one of the speakers I've worked with, of whom I think I'm most proud because she just made enormous amounts of progress.